So
I just thought of a kind of a head cleaner moment with a movie that is different than the way that I watched it. And I'm sure that I'm sure we've all got these, but this is the one that stands out in my head, and it's for kind of dumb but not dumb reasons. The movie Scarface was originally like a two VHS like thing. You had to play two tapes.
yeah.
And so that's the way I watched it the first time. And I had been into this band called My Life with a Thrill Kill Cult. They're like a electronic kind of loungy
Yeah.
band. I don't know if you're familiar with.
I was always surprised by what they sounded like with such an
Yeah.
amazing
That name.
band name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't remember, one of their songs has a sample in it with, it's just a guy saying, I always wanted to be a movie star. And it just stuck in my head because I'd heard that song so much. Then I watched Scarface and I hear that line and I know for a fact, like, this is where that came from. This was sampled. I rewound it. I'm like, okay, play it again. And then the VHS kind of ceased to exist for a while. And then like eventually I think it came out on DVD, but there was this like gap of time where Scarface wasn't like readily available. And then so the next time I see it, I haven't watched Scarface a ton of times. It's just I'd seen it more than once. Once was VHS. Yeah, once was DVD. And that I always wanted to be a movie star sample is not in the current version of Scarface. So things changed. Like it's not there anymore.
You did that.
Yeah.
Dude, Scarface resonates. Like I had almost the identical experience that you did with I have probably seen Scarface. I would say probably at least as much as Primer, and that's a lot because it was always on. And it was, even though it was two tapes back in the day. I don't know if you guys remember, they re-recorded the soundtrack to make the gunshots louder because it became such a staple in the rap community. It became such a popular movie that it's like a lot of people that like rap music were renting it and saying, this doesn't have that extra thing I want. And so they went back and you can find versions of the DVD that say new soundtrack, louder action, and they just beefed up the gunshots. So anyway, that's crazy. That's like worse than Spielberg turning guns into walkie-talkies.
Yeah, De Palma is cool with that. All right, go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's so weird. I think that he's pretty cynical about the popularity of that and how it expanded. But anyway, so I knew that movie backwards and forwards, and then I was from the age where Grand Theft Auto was huge. Gen X loved Grand Theft Auto. And if you guys have played in the PlayStation 2, if you drive around, you can listen to the radio stations in it. And there's a radio station where all the songs are songs from Scarface. For some reason I had forgotten or I don't know. I didn't realize that all those things were in Scarface. So I went back to Scarface and I got to just see it through new eyes. I was like, this is like Grand Theft Auto. So I was like, I'm sure that's what younger generations do, is they see things backwards. The reference becomes the thing, and then the thing it references becomes the reference. And so with Scarface, by going back and hearing all the Grand Theft Auto songs that I'd forgotten about, it's like, oh, this is what it's like to be a kid again. This is how they're experiencing it. But anyway.
No, you're totally right with the reference thing. Like all the old samurai movies, I watched them because of Star Wars and Western movies, like the spaghetti Westerns.
Right.
And so forever, even though I know the order of things, they to me are an offshoot of those movies in some emotional way, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. But Rob, with your Scarface
the famous issue with John Carter is everybody said, it's just Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it is.
It's one of those things. It's like, like Dune, for instance, like Dune, it sort of feels like Star Wars, and it feels like a bunch of things because like people pick the bones from it,
right?
And it's like at the Mountains of Madness. At this point, if you make a movie of that,
it's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like that's cool, but what can you do about that, really?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But real quick, Rob, with your Scarface thing, so there's a version of Scarface you can't find that has a couple lines or something. Like it's out there. Or are you wrong?
Well, Well, that's probably the best question to ask, and I don't know how to answer it. But yeah, the original time I watched it on those VHS, the line was in there, and then the next time I watched it when I was on DVD, that line did not exist. So
you might have watched, but they fucked with that soundtrack, so who knows?
Yeah,
it's one of those things where they
like, and they didn't.
Go ahead.
They didn't explicitly say that like this is a new edit. It was just on a new form of media. So I was expecting the same thing. And when it wasn't the same, I was like, I fucking know.
We could probably solve this. So this was a DVD?
Yeah.
Was the cover black and white or black and silver?
I'm sure it was black and white, but
that's the re-edit. That's the new beefed up soundtrack. The black and silver one is the one that was transferred from like videotape and Laserdisc. But the one that's black and white that looks just like the American Gangster poster, essentially, is that's the new soundtrack where it's kind of like the loudness wars with music. They crank shit up. So maybe they did some trims and maybe your line got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, they snuck in some edits or something.
And back to that, Dave. So you're telling me like enough people were like, yeah, these guns sound kind of wussy. Like we need some loud gun. They changed the fucking movie.
I guess. I remember looking at it in the store and it was like new soundtrack, louder action or something, some phrase like that.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
And and it is louder, which is, yeah. I mean,
I want that for everything now. I want Beastmaster is pretty cool, but he's not that ripped. Can you get his belts or something? Like, can we?
Now with oilier muscles.
Yeah, oilier muscles, the ferret 10 times cuter. What else can we beat? Crazy.
What? All right. What a beautiful reference. Like, I remember watching the shit out of Beastmaster when I was like a kid. And I've been so tempted so many times to rewatch it as an adult. But like, it's that thing where I'm like, I don't want the magic to like crumble in my mind. Like, I want to preserve it. But if it holds up, I'm watching that because like the thing I remember is these weird things that would like hug you and then like
turn you into goop.
Yeah,
I think I just discovered this recently on like I think the Tarantino podcast or some like movie podcast, but like the cinematographer is the same dude who did like Godfather, who did Beastmaster. And it's like that's not that many years apart, kinda. So it's like what the shit happened to your career? And as a kid, I remember Rip Torn, his nose piece, he has a prosthetic nose, and I was like, that's the guy from the Larry Sanders? And my mom was like, yeah. I was like, no, he looks totally different, Mom. I was like, no. That's a fake nose. I'm like, they could do fake noses back then? She's like, you don't know anything. But the thing is, if you watch Beastmaster, that's cool. You got to watch BM2. BM2 is where, the men become boys. It's a time travel movie. Beastmaster comes to modern times. He's got like a Ferrari and shit.
Oh, shit.
No, are you serious?
Uh-huh.
Does he have his panther with him?
I believe the only guys he brings are the two ferrets. I think the panther has to stay home. I could be wrong.
I recently learned that the world just keeps chipping away at the legacy of Beastmaster for poor Rob. But I recently learned there's no such thing as a panther. That there's a black leopards.
What?
A panther is not a thing. I swear I just read this. There's no such thing.
Are you telling me Wakanda is not forever? What the fuck are you saying?
I just read it somewhere. Unless I read that there's no such thing as no, it has to be a leopard. There's no such thing as a panther. It's a black leopard.
I can't tell if you're like man on the mooning me or is this
no, it's real. Somebody has, if only we had a device that could check, but there's no such thing as a panther.
That's kind of nuts.
That's all right.
And isn't that the famous case with Beastmaster that wasn't even black. They like spray painted it or something.
Oh, I love that. I hope it's a cinematographer from Godfather. I was like, it looks good better on camera, right? You get
they painted some old leopard or something. They painted some carny and they paid him in cigarettes. He walked around on all fours.
You got to get a white Dalmatian dog, continue the paint job, and then it looks like a leopard every time.
It's just movie magic. It's it's movie magic.
So within the book, within Head Cleaner, how many? I'm guessing like every time we talk about a movie and the change, the ending. Some of these are jokes, but some of these are like your ideas, like how you would fix them. Because I know you like to fix things.
Yeah, that was one of those things where.
Is
this going to be your script doctor? Segment, but you're like invading MySpace.
It was one of those things where it was just a happy accident where they needed banter. They're at a video store, and it was there's like a meme going around where it says "fix a movie in one line."
Right.
And the book is essentially a very serious version of "fix a movie in one line," and it is like you said, some of them are just because it was funny, and some of them are script doctors. Some of them are just excuses to do Goodwill Hunting jokes. Most of them are. And the others are just an obsession, like a really deep obsession with the movie Black Sunday, which sadly is the same name as a Mario Bava movie, classic.
Yeah, I was confused. Yeah, I was confused for like the first couple mentions. I was like, what?
There's a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I was like, there's no fucking, like, now you're an American. What? Okay.
Yeah, it's, I was obsessed with that movie. When I was a little kid, I even had a Goodyear blimp toy because I'd seen that. It was one of those movies where they let me watch it too early.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know, are you guys familiar with the film?
I was not, no.
So, just real quick, there's a sequence in it where the idea is somebody wants to blow up the Super Bowl, but a bomb isn't good enough in this creepy, weird movie. So they're going to blow it up. They're going to shoot millions of darts into like the faces of everyone at the Super Bowl. That's how they're going to kill him.
Jesus Christ.
Love it.
So this guy's going to build this special bomb that's going to be in the basket of a Goodyear blimp. So it's like an inverted oval, just like a stadium. So if it lowers itself into the stadium, the spread will cover every face. It happens at a Super Bowl that the president's going to be there. So this is a way to kind of kill two birds with one stone. So as a rehearsal for it, because there's no way in this movie that was part of the criticisms of the movie, is like people were a bunch of morbid freaks and they wanted to see that bomb go off as it's described. So to give the ghouls a taste, they have a rehearsal for it in the film and in the novel. This is the guy who wrote Red Dragon and Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, Harris, yeah.
Yeah, so this is Harris's first novel. So there's a rehearsal for it in the novel where he takes a small version. He takes an airplane hangar and he just he puts it on like a rowboat. He puts the bomb and the darts in this rowboat, and then he has somebody he's just going to set it off, and then he can look at all the holes in the airplane hangar where the sun comes through, and he'll get an idea of whether it would work or not. He'll do the math. But then somebody comes by that kind of happens on what he's doing, and is like, "What are you doing out here? This is my property or something." And he's like, can you go stand in? I'm taking pictures. It's a new special camera. And so both in the book and the movie, you get to see what would happen to everyone at the Super Bowl if this happened. And so anyway, long story short, I saw that way too young. And I was like, oh my God, because it was such a low-tech terrorist device, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? It wasn't just in the 80s, we were all, nukes were all on all our brains. So this was not a nuke. This was not the thing I was normally afraid of. This was a very tangible thing to get hit with all these darts. And so I kind of went down the rabbit hole as a little kid with that movie and with the book. And so in this novel, you get to change that. What the implications are that if you change something that has real footage in it, you're changing real footage. So you get kind of a Back to the Future too with it. If you, since it was real footage of a real Super Bowl, if you fuck with that, if they fuck with this movie, then they're going to fuck with a real event, which leads to, well, wait a minute, does that mean if we throw in JFK and freeze it, et cetera? It's because JFK contains actual footage of the Zapruder film. And so it's an excuse to put real footage into the VCR in the easiest way possible. But I don't know if that answered the question, but Black Sunday was, or even if there was a question, but Black Sunday was just a huge obsession of mine.
No, it sounds really fun. I mean, it sounds
I'm trying to make Black Sunday happen. Everybody's got to re-experience that. It's a Frankenheimer movie. He was always kind of like he went in and fixed, made worse, Island of Dr. Moreau, but he did the Manchurian Candidate, and he did a lot of weird 70s sort of paranoid exercises, right?
Right.
And Black Sunday was certainly a rehearsal for Silence of the Lambs as far as the bad guy. The bad guy that was some of the criticisms of the novel, was like, we spend a lot of time in the head of this crazy guy, and it's not a lot of fun. And he must have took that to heart. He's like, what if we did that? And we did that with Hannibal, Rob's favorite person ever. What if we spent all our time with Hannibal Lecter? And he sort of corrected the ship there.
Does Bruce Dern play that guy?
He does. Bruce Dern plays the terrorist.
Right. All right, I like it. Because in Head Cleaner, you mentioned like he might be the same character in Burbs. Is that right? Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
That's another movie
that fits pretty well. So yeah, Black Sunday.
Here's my thought. With Last Projector, if you have not seen the movie The Thing, you're at a serious disadvantage. And it sounds like for Head Cleaner, there is a little bit of watching that would facilitate a little bit of a different experience.
I would say,
accurate or no?
Honestly, no, because all it does is it makes them realize that the score of a real live Super Bowl game has changed, and that leads them to more important things. So it's not as interwoven as The Thing. I mean, Last Projector has its own rap songs and shit based on The Thing. Like the Thing love is deep. But with this one, you probably have to know more about. You'd have more fun if you knew about JFK or Any Given Sunday than Black Sunday, because those things are analyzed much more closely. Or Good Will Hunting.
Well, I also think that since you're talking about the different generations, Generation X and probably Generation Y are way more into making references to media and pop culture than, or at least I guess stuff they grew up with. So I'm sure hanging out with younger people, they're like, what do you even, all you do is talk about movies. Like that's all you got. And so it makes sense that like, it's okay to be like a little lost. You get the gist of it in the book.
Hopefully, like the Last Projector, I got to kind of indulge in that. There was just an assumption that everybody was the same way. And you're just going to, I hope you like talking about movies, where this one, the idea is that that they're not normal by doing it. So it is sort of an outsider perspective of their movie talk is showing their limitations, that they're that's what the Eva character recognizes there. And to her, they're kind of, it's kind of obnoxious. So, I don't necessarily believe that, but there's at least there's an in for people that are not movie junkies as far as that goes. That was the one thing that Mr. Throw It All Away, Mamatas, really enjoyed, was whenever the banter was happening, he would highlight it and say the banter's working really well. So these sound like people. He would say these sound like people and not mouthpieces for the author, or something to that effect. Or maybe,
So, okay, Dave, do you get sick of people telling you your dialogue's good? Because your dialogue, I think you're a great dialogue.
I don't hear that a lot. I hear
really
a lot. There's a lot of I mean, if you go, I keep going back to Goodreads, and I probably shouldn't, but that was complaints with early books, is everybody sounds the same, everybody sounds like me or whatever. But
see, I think some people get hung up on like everyone should sound like real people, because the truth is, no, if you're reading a book, real people, like how many times have we said and said the wrong word, but we kind of get it. You don't want that. You want a stylist, which I think is, you're a great stylist of dialogue, and you have enough different voices, and maybe throughout your entire body of work there are certain voices you kind of go back to for different characters. But that to me is like, Scorsese using De Niro 10 times. It's just that's that type of character. But I think your dialogue, like, it always has a great zip to it. There's a good, like, there's a rhythm, there's cadence, there's the jokes land, and I'm always kind of I'm a little in awe of it. And I actually thought that people would always give you credit for it, and that you might be like, like when Tarantino did Kill Bill, he was like, oh, I wanted them to show people I can do more than just dialogue. I can do some action set pieces and this and this and that. But you're saying that some people actually don't even dig your dialogue.
I think that's some of the rejection letters I've gotten when I've made the mistake of trying to get agents,
right.
That everybody sounds the same, overly negative. But this one maybe not so much. This one because everybody is sort of representative of a certain generation, they're based on people I know and the way people talk. Probably the easiest one to write dialogue for was the sort of Milo libertarian, edgelordy kind of
the boss.
Yeah, the Randy character is representative of a couple gay guys I know who are just brutal when it comes to things that they don't like.
Right.
And so tackling that I thought, well, that's going to be, is that going to sound, am I going to invent, I don't know, stereotype for a particular sassy, the mean gay guy? But it turns out, I mean, as Rob probably discovers as he reads along, is that character arguably goes through the most change. So it's kind of like you got to start with something it's like, oh, this person sucks. And then, so there is, because I spent time on what that guy would start out sounding like, which was kind of based on Milo, what is it, Yiannopoulos, where the fuck that guy's name is,
right? Yeah.
I mean, he was more in the spotlight when I started writing it. Mercifully, he's faded away,
right?
But there is sort of his type, and I'm talking about the sort of delusional, hardcore right winger, hardliner it's more like what's his name, Roy Cohn. It was there's sort of a self-hate and a destructive nature to him. There's that line in Al Pacino plays him in, is it the Angels in America, the line where he's like, oh, I can't even think of it. I'm going to mangle it, and it's going to be one of those that I should definitely have it right if I'm going to say these words. Actually, I'm not going to say those words. I'm not going to give anyone any ammunition. Look at Al Pacino's portrayal of Roy Cohn is a lot of the basis for the video store owner. Can that character be redeemed?
Right.
Yeah. So those are more. I guess the point is they're less me, so maybe they're more. They wouldn't be susceptible to. Oh, you're just having the same guy telling jokes the whole time. It's just 4 versions of you. So maybe I sidestepped that a little more in this book.
I'd say that the different characters are pretty like realized as being their own separate kind of voices and stuff like that. Because I hadn't thought about it, so you guys started talking about it. But yes, I would say that none of them really sound alike. Jerry's uniquely Jerry. Randy's uniquely Randy. What's it, Bunny? Like they all have their own kind of.
Yeah, he's straight off the jacket. He's straight off the CKY tapes, Bunny.
And it works well. But do you typically have, so the book has, let's see, so there's the 3 main characters, and then there's like a couple of secondary characters, which are what's her name?
Tegan.
Thank you, Tegan. And the other dude that I didn't mention a second ago it's Bunny, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then there's the tertiary characters, which are like maybe an agent or whatever, that kind of thing. Which collectors, is that what the title that was given to them or something like that?
Where they're stashing the last representation of each media object. Yeah. Go ahead.
I feel like do you often have like that many consistent, like that big of a kind of main group of characters?
No, this was probably a pretty big, even though it's the point of view, third person point of view attached of these 3 main people that kind of Rashomon it up. Ironically, that made a bigger cast and it made it easier to make them distinct because they were retelling the story sort of in a way.
Yeah.
Kind of. Not really. Never mind. but the people that were I wanted the video store to be populated. It's been a real problem pandemic wise, as far as Netflix movies are a real victim of this is underpopulated films, underpopulated series, where you get 2 or 3 people and they're clearly dealing with pandemic limitations.
Yeah.
But then they realize, it's kind of like with bad CGI. Somewhere along the way, people realize, well, you don't need to have a David Lean sort of set piece with 1,000 extras. Nobody even wants that anymore. So the people have, even now that sets are back open, something like Glass Onion is a good example of a ridiculously underpopulated movie. It seems on the surface level that it's big, it's shiny, and it's full of something. It's full of something, but it's not populated. It's got about 5 people and they're stuck in a shiny room. And if you look at that guy's previous movies where he had a tenth of the budget, like The Brothers Bloom was a caper movie that he did that felt hugely realized. It was like it was kind of his Wes Anderson movie. So it gets some shit for that. But it's certainly, just by not being limited by all that Netflix money, where you got these big gross sets and CGI in Glass Onion, like it just doesn't. And Knives Out seems like a whole different world. So anyway, I wanted it to be populated, even though it was video store based, and there is some redundancy to the plot where they seem to be are they in a video store? Are they in a video store within another building? Like they're pretty inert in some ways. But I wanted to blow that open. The skate park became a focus, and
Facebook.
The Facebook campus became something that could kind of open it up. So all those things needed a representative. So Facebook campus has Stacy with an I, becomes a pretty important character, and Bunny is the skateboard guy. So all these places that, if it's not just going to be stuck in the video store or stuck in the video store within the building, then these other places need their ambassador, and those characters they got to have a good supporting role, or I thought they got to have their say. Each of them had a moment.
Right. I'm guessing that you in general enjoy writing dialogue. It feels like you're having a lot of fun, mostly not even just for funny exchanges, but just in general, just passing the ball back and forth between a couple of people. For sure,
but I think that it's to blame for books ballooning up pretty big, because to try to make it sound like a real conversation, it gets kind of, I don't want to say it gets kind of mammety, because that's the opposite of a real conversation, but there is this like kind of redundancy of what you said this, wait, huh, who? And I think those things are important to keep it, to get at that groove going, but that groove eats up a page really fast.
Yeah,
but then that shows how little I know, because I much prefer a nice brick of text that slows shit down. 1 brick of text page, it takes people a lot longer than 10 pages of just dialogue. So it's like it's an illusion of, people are complaining about the last book being too big, and it's not. If you read it, there's just so many conversations that it burns right past. Like it goes by so much faster than much smaller things I've written. But people would never know that, because it looks like a brick. So in that way, I love dialogue, but it artificially inflates the page count, and but I think it moves things along. I think it makes it zippy.
The pace is breezy. On this one, and you came in under 400 pages. You're at like 375 or something like that. And it's a well-paced book. Like, it reads pretty easy. And there is that, like, the example I always think of when we're talking about like a brick of text is the book Perfume by Patrick Suskind. And it's about a guy who's pretty much like isolated for the entirety of the book. So there's so much just descriptions of what's going on that there's almost no dialogue. And even though it's like 180 pages or something like that, man, that book takes fucking forever to get through. And it's great. It's great. I love the book, but it's hard to approach. But this book, I think that you manage pace pretty well pretty much in everything I've read, but this one definitely feels very breezy and approachable.
I think sometimes it happens with the reset button in that one too, because once it resets the first time and you know it's going to do it again, your mind already says, well, I kind of know how much is left, because it has to stop where it started. So it's, I think that can that signal is good. Like when you read a Kindle and you know when it's going to be done, you read a book and you know how many pages are in front of you. So I think that can be helpful to know how not daunting it might be.
That's a good point.
When you start thinking or working on the next thing, the next novel or bunch of short stories, do you consciously try to do something different than the last thing you did, or do you say like, well, whatever I feel like doing, if it happens to be a little bit like the last thing, that's fine. If it's completely different, like how much do you worry about that?
I guess I don't really think about it. It's just if it's not just wish fulfillment or settling grudges or blatant fantasies, it's just whatever is interesting to me. It's kind of like your comic books. It would surprise me if you ever didn't write about the topics you write about. And I don't know if I'm sure that you could write a nice period piece about somebody coming out to America.
Oh man, I was looking forward to that.
No more than me.
Yeah. You'll never know what you could write really well.
I know.
Am I back?
You're
You're back.
You guys missed the least Tony McMillan thing I could come up with.
I'm dying.
You'll never hear it. You'll never hear it.
Son of a bitch. All right.
But suffice to say, it was. You could put that up, and then you could flick a button to do a negative image of it, and your face would appear. It was something that you would never write. It was so perfect. It was such a perfect analogy. Good job, me.
Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Wow.
But I do know what you're saying. Like, a lot of my favorite artists in general do have certain themes that they go back to, and I don't think it's some calculated thing. I think that's what they care about. That's what they obsess over. I do know making comic books, I do get tired of drawing certain things. So like I'm tired of drawing, spaceships. I want to draw, people in the real world, and the next will be that, and that informs it a little bit. But with your stuff, you've covered a lot of different genres, even though they're almost always kind of like squished together hybrid genres. So you kind of can do a lot. Like I don't know how many books I would go, this is a straight this. I'm like, it's not really. It's just kind of your own weird take on everything. Do you think that's fair, or do you go, no, actually I view this is a straight noir, this is a straight this?
There was some conscious genre hopping at the beginning. Right? An attempt to
we trying things on.
Yeah, let's try a zombie book. Let's try a Western. So I think you're right. There was an attempt to. It was, it's kind of like, I like those things. I'd like to try one kind of thing.
Right.
But now I'm kind of settling into what I like to write about, which is that's another problem with marketing it. I don't know if people are going to, if the right readers are, I don't know if the readers are going to find it. Like, you guys are the perfect readers for this, but
so you're getting into your Hello Nasty phase of your career. you had some different, you tried certain things on, and now you're kind of like,
yes,
putting it together. This is me. This is my own genre.
That is better than the example I used. Yes, exactly. I feel like I probably won't venture out of it, even though I can't define it. It's a hybrid genre, like I think Rob said earlier. It's a hybrid of a lot of things. So any attempt to write something marketable is not working.
I think that there's themes in, and you can tell me I'm wrong, but I feel like there are some things that naturally manifest in the types of stories that, or in your style. I always feel like there's like, it makes you think about what a person does and why, or like I don't know if I'm going to be able to properly explain what I'm talking about, but there's always like a not a breakdown, but it almost like it encourages an analysis of the motivations of your characters. And I don't know if that's just like some basic storytelling but it seems like it's very kind of common in the stuff that you write.
I think that's what Amy always calls when she reads the stuff that I write, she calls it the personal zeitgeist.
Yeah.
And it might be just the collateral damage of reading too many of my things, for Rob in particular, that you that you get the gist of I don't know, like you recognize it now, maybe. I don't think anybody else. There's very few people that have that problem. That affliction is not that widely known. But it's full of stuff that it's full of it has an ethos. Isn't that what she says in Videodrome? Max, it has an ethos. Is that her line? What does she say?
That sounds about right. If it's not ethos, it's like it's not point of view. I think ethos is
philosophy.
Right. Yeah.
That's probably not accurate. Anyway, I see what you're saying.
Well, the beauty part is, like, with this whole interview, like, any quote you get wrong from movie, it's right back to your book, Head Cleaner.
Exactly.
You know, honestly, your next book, you could just do a bootleg adaptation of a movie you like and just fuck it up.
Yeah.
Are you could do Black Sunday, the movie adaptation of the book that it was based on, but it's your version of it?
Isn't that what Stephen Graham Jones's Demon Theory is? Isn't it some sort of turducken like that?
Is it?
I haven't read it, but Rob read it.
I did read it. It's a movie. It's written as a movie trilogy. But I don't know if it's a specific. The person to talk to about that would be Jesse Lawrence, but I don't know if it has a specific like target in what it was doing, or if it was just him doing something in that kind of formula. But it is written. It's 3 separate parts, and each part is a movie in a trilogy.
You know,
speaking
of Jones, I was going to say he did a story which I thought was like a Dave James Keaton type of story, and it was in his collection. When the people lights go off, it's about werewolves. And the whole deal was like, like dog years, werewolf years are different. So if you turn into a werewolf, you come back to human, you might have aged if you stay a werewolf too long.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's fucking great. Like, and I was like, that feels like, I don't know, it kind of felt like your thing a little bit, like a little bit of your vibe.
If we take a moment to do some Stephen Graham Jones love here, every so often I'll read one of his things and I'm like, oh shit, like I should have done that. Have you guys read the Night of the Mannequins?
Yes.
No.
Oh my God.
So Tony, the opening of Night of the Mannequins, not only is this something where you're going to be like, oh, what a great idea. Like, I think it's kind of in our wheelhouse as well.
Mm-hmm.
So people are going to, these young people want to prank somebody. So they put a mannequin in a movie theater for their friend who's an usher to like come up upon and be like, oh, what the fuck is that? So they sit in the back row. They put the mannequin in the movie theater and sit in the back row and watch. And they see the usher come up and seemingly have a conversation with the person. And then the mannequin leaves. That's how the book starts. And then they're like, what the fuck was that? And then the rest of the book is that's probably his loosest work. Like you can really get the feeling he's making it up as he goes.
Right.
But you're still in sure hands.
Yeah.
So what a great opening, right?
Oh my God. I think even on like the jacket copy, the way they describe the story, like that's why I think I got an advanced copy from Tor maybe on that one, but like just reading that, I was like, I need to fucking read this right now because it sounds amazing.
Is that a full length or is that just a story?
No, it's tiny. It's basically it's like a short story. It's supposed to be a novella, but I think I read it in like an hour.
That sounds
Hold
great.
on. Let me pull it off the shelf.
Yeah, look, you're going to get an idea.
Go to the library here.
like he did a story about a kid in a hoodie, and the hoodie would swallow things, like the sleeve, like if you did one of these.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I was like, oh man, I could draw the shit out of that. Like I want to turn it into a comic book, you know? Like
it's on loan to somebody right now.
Wait, I might have it. Hold on.
This is a gimmick now. He's gonna come back with like a different book altogether.
It's pretty good selection you got behind you. What I can make out, it's pretty neat. Yeah.
This is I spent like the last 2 years just unloading books that were accumulating from like, advanced copies from publishers and stuff that accumulated over the years. So like this here is just mostly people that I've gotten books from and read in the last like probably decade.
So when you say ARC party, like this is it.
This is the ARC party right here. Yeah.
Crazy.
I've got some gems. I think the real banger is my copy of Jones's The Elvis Room, which I think there was like 100 copies total made, and mine is 1 out of 100. So
that's very fun.
It's so teeny.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, you need to read that.
Sounds great. How old is it? Is it like an older one?
2018, I think.
Okay,
cool. 18 or 19.
Very cool. Yeah, it sounds really
came out.
fun.
I think it came out around the time of The Only Good Indians.
Gotcha.
2020.
Oh, 20.
Yeah.
2020.
I guess you're welcome, Steve. Here
it is next to.
Made a sale.
You ever watch those knife videos? Here it is next to a PM2.
Right. Nice
next
corner.
to a ballet song. Did I freeze up?
No, you're good.
No, you're just talking about knives.
You guys want to see my new knife?
When you're selling someone else's book, it works fine.
Amy got me this one for Christmas. It's called the chili pepper.
It's pretty cute.
We should take it to Applebee's and be ironic about it.
How many knives do you think you own, Dave?
The knife box. I don't know if you can see that.
Knife box.
Did you taking your knives out?
Wait. Here's can you see this box?
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Oh, I saw you posted something. You had to have that exchange or something because there was a problem with the foam being imperfect.
Yeah, they cut the knife foam had holes in it, so the knives would fall at the bottom. But then they just sent me another one, and they said just keep the other one. You can have it, and I taped it up like it's workable. So, but who else is going to have? Who else wants it? I don't know. I can't. Somebody said they wanted it, and then they backed out. So I still have that piece of foam.
Maybe you let the kid play with it. I mean, that thing would be awesome, right? Like, take the knives out, maybe. I don't know. Not gonna tell you anything.
So that's what I thought. Like, that's a very good point. But for example, this is one of those Balisong butterfly knives, but it's got a fake blade in it. See that?
Yeah.
So that you don't cut yourself. So this is a nice fidgety thing to sit around with when you're watching TV. That'll definitely freeze the fucking thing.
Yeah, it did.
It did. You've got the last internet connection.
Anyway, what I was saying was, so I thought, well, I could leave this sitting around because I have that foam is in a case that you can lock up so that child can't get to it. But this one, I thought I can play with this and I can leave it sitting on the armchair. And Amy was like, no, that's worse. So she said, it's much worse to leave that laying around because it's not real. And it normalizes that as an object that can't hurt you. So if she got used to flipping that around and playing with it, then maybe she'd play with knives thinking that they weren't dangerous. So
I follow that.
So I have this fake knife for no reason now.
You tape razors to the fake knife.
So I thought it was a childproof knife. And you think it's not a very complicated lesson. You think I'd understand that that's why you don't have fake guns sitting around. I mean, it's pretty simple logic. And somehow I thought, well, what if we just had toy knives? Anyway, this is just that's another pandemic casualty is knife collecting. I had to do something.
Did you come up with a pandemic hobby that you didn't have before the pandemic?
Gaining weight.
No,
I mean, not really. It's funny. I'm a father of a small kid, and I make comic books, and I have a real job, and I don't have a lot of time. So here's the only thing I start doing. I start drinking coffee. I used to not drink coffee, so now I drink a lot of coffee.
Me too. Me too.
Okay,
That's
great.
Yeah, I was doing sort of a poor man's Four Loko here. I was doing coffee and LaCroix.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that actually would be nice. I would do that.
Yeah. But yeah, coffee that's another pandemic casualty is my coffee intake.
Yeah, I started waking up. I was like, I need something to go, and now I take really quickly to like habits, and most of my habits are really innocuous and stuff. But coffee is now like if I don't have coffee every day, I get like a bad headache, and like it's pretty. I'm going to train spot brutal. Any second. Yeah.
What about you, Rob? Any pandemic hobbies that developed?
No. My journey was I got cancer, so that really took a chunk of the pandemic up. So yeah. I didn't really have the opportunity to like.
Well, wouldn't you say you beat cancer was your pandemic hobby? Was conquering cancer?
Fighting and beating cancer was definitely
that's better.
The hobby. But yeah, I didn't get to do like sourdough or anything because I was like poisoned, being poisoned for months on end.
Right.
So we'll have to have another pandemic where I'm healthier.
Yeah.
You might get your wish. I don't know.
Yeah, a little monkeypox.
Oh god.
A little monkeypox so that Rob can get into model airplanes. What the fuck?
Yeah, work from home and start whittling or something.
I always thought it'd be kind of awesome to like hit 40 and get really into like a hard drug all of a sudden. Like
I can see how it happens though. Like
yeah.
Just the coffee thing has made me think about would I be really good at being like a heroin addict if I'm so good at drinking coffee? I just never like maybe I'd be really good at it.
Well, the thing is, you would have the wisdom to know if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this the right way. Like I read the Keith Richards book, and he's like, "Yeah, I use the best heroin available, and that's why I'm still alive." I'm like, "Yeah, of course you got to do it the best way." It's like when I get ice cream, I don't get cheap ice cream. I get like a really fancy fucking. I'm going to be bad. I'm going to be bad, really good. So that's what you got to do.
Good. Is there good crack?
There's got to be some gelato crack out there.
It's called cocaine. Like
true. Oh shit.
Very true.
It's the yayo from Scarface.
There it is. It all comes together. Well, what version?
Right.
Jesus. I think that I would just be too tired to have like a drug addiction. Like
yeah.
I'm in my mid 40s, and I'm just like everything feels like it's more effort.
Well, you gotta pick the right drug, man. You might have like a bunch more energy all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, weed's legal in Illinois, and I dabbled in some like edibles and gummies and stuff. And
right,
I
tried that. It didn't do anything. Did it? Gummies didn't do shit for me. What did it do for you?
Either they didn't do anything, or they were too effective. Where I was just like kind of like black, I couldn't function properly. I didn't find the sweet spot where it was just like I feel all right. But the best time for me,
crack, Rob.
Yeah, that's crack.
That's the sweet spot.
One of the street names is Sweet Spot.
Kind of that sweet spot.
Yeah. I had a similar thing. I did some edibles and like I was laughing. I was so goofy because I hadn't smoked weed since I was a little kid. I'm not little. I was like 13, but not since then. So we watched like Pen 15 or some funny TV show, and I was like dying. I was like, oh man, like this two of these bears is like way too much. I gotta cut this bear up.
Yeah. I don't care to find my right dose. I've just kind of got tired of it. So
Four Loko brings me back down. I'm down with that. Dave, are you drinking coffee while you write, or is that like a sacred thing? We don't do that.
Yeah, just writing, grading papers, getting moving. Pretty much, just it's been a daily thing for a while, and only since the pandemic, I never drank coffee before. I would drink, if it was like a milkshake, if it was a coffee drink with a bunch of whipped cream and caramel, and I'd drink those at work if somebody bought them. Right. But that was candy,
Right.
But now, I'll make a cup of coffee before I sit down to do, or just to like, I find that it just improves my mood.
Because you're addicted to it. That's how I imagine it for me. I'm like,
That's what if they finally would just put a microphone in front of the right crackhead, it just improves my mood. I'm just so much happier with crack.
That's good.
Yeah, I like how I'm pretending like I'm the first one to notice these things. Coffee just makes me feel better. I'm so happy.
You're that guy that I won't mention by name, but goes onto social media and like 15 years after the fact is like, I'm watching The Wire. It's amazing.
Yeah, I do about 5 years later. That's my sweet spot, is to get into things about 5 years later.
No, yeah, it's definitely me. I always joke if a lead singer dies, I'm gonna get their album right then, and that'll be my new favorite band. I'll never see them live. It just happens.
Yeah, but it can only be if they die in a surprising or horrible way. Like David Bowie went out with such class. I don't think I'll ever listen to his last album because it was such a march to the grave. Like I don't know, but if he would have died in like some horrible accident, like a fucking snow plowed himself, like that guy did yesterday.
I knew you were gonna bring up Jeremy Renner. I knew it.
Like if David Bowie would have snow plowed himself, I would definitely have his last album.
Different snow.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Dude, if Bowie was on a snowplow, just a photo of that would just fucking change my whole world. Like, what?
Yeah, you can do it. What's that? There's that football player got hurt yesterday, and everybody's at half mast.
Yeah,
I wish I was still going. I wish I wasn't working from home right now so that I could call my boss and say,
"Can't come."
I'm sorry, but the injury to baby Diego has affected me way too much to go into work today. No, that sucks. That I'm sure that's
that'd be great. Just to try it, see what they do. Like what could you say to somebody if they're trying to be sincere about that? You're like, do I have to honor this? Like someone's
Dude, I have the exact situation happened at a video store where somebody tried to get out of a late fee. And they talked about some sickness in their family, and it was so embarrassing for everyone. And the guy comes up, he's like, "Oh, so sorry. We were hurrying up to get to the hospital, and blah blah blah." And I know that I was supposed to be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," but instead I was just like, "You're gonna use that isn't that tragedy mean more to you than $1?"
Right?
Is it just $1 to you? Do they know that they're just $1 to you? Anyway.
Well, and then you follow that person around town and they're like, everything they're doing, they're just currying sympathy off of that fucking bullshit.
Yeah, that's some Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like, I'm gonna follow that person. They better go to a hospital.
Yeah. Like that time you followed the volunteer firefighter or whatever.
Yes, he said he wanted to know if I want my ass kicked. There's a correct answer to that question.
Oh, Jesus. That's funny.
That's hilarious.
So, would you read a book by someone about a video store that was never a clerk, or do you go, don't waste my time?
I probably wouldn't want to. I think it would be, that would be what do you call it? Stolen valor?
Yeah. Yeah.
You do want some evidence that they worked at a video store. You don't want to, because it's fun to hear about it. That's like the book Last Night at the Lobster, which was a huge influence on this book. I don't know if you guys ever read that one by Onan.
No.
It's the last night of a Red Lobster before they're going out of business, and they want to the manager's like, we're gonna do it by the numbers. We're not gonna slap, even though we could. We're gonna respect. And of course, the last night is where all grudges start to boil up. It's a really snowy day, and so there's barely any customers. It's a very small book. It's kind of Night of the Mannequin size. I'd highly recommend it. Like, it's Red Lobster as a topic. You'd think it would be? Is it going to be too? It's like if somebody was to write about Taco Bell, you'd have to do it in a serious way because it's such a
right.
You've already inherently got the thing has already been minimized.
It's
so
a punchline, you got to
take it seriously. So you could tell that the guy who wrote it, spent some time at Red Lobster, and it comes through.
Nice.
It's a fun book. This is like the last night at the the last night at the Blockbuster, which is not a Blockbuster. I see Blockbuster getting a lot of attention lately as far as nostalgia points. And if you worked in a video store in the 80s, man, or the 90s or the early 2000s, Blockbuster sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, I worked at Blockbuster for 7 years. Everyone hated me. All my friends worked at the actual video stores, like Casa Video in Tucson, called me video Nazi. I was like, I just got a job. I need, it's like, nah. And going to thrift stores for clothes, the most common uniform was a Blockbuster polo. There was just like so many throughout the whole store.
That's like in Clerks when he goes to what is it, Big Time Video or whatever. I'm gonna go to Big Choice or whatever.
Yeah,
and that's an interesting moment because he just wants a copy of the movie he wants, and that was the biggest problem when I worked at all these little video stores. We only had a couple copies of the big movies, so you're the asshole who's like, are you sure you don't want to watch Johnny Handsome instead? You're pushing your other shit on them because you don't have the movies that people want. And so there's something to be said for Blockbuster. They would always have the movie you wanted. Maybe they didn't have the fringe stuff, but you didn't want the fringe stuff. You just wanted to watch Under Siege. You just wanted to watch a copy of the big new movie. And
And I would definitely have customers come in who made it a point to go, I don't usually come here, but they're all out of it at Casa Video or whatever. And it's like, well, you have a membership. So, I mean, what are we doing? Come on. It's okay. I'm not going to tell your friends.
Shit, that's like when, me and my girlfriend are going to do a coffee run. And like, the only thing that's open is Starbucks. And it's like, well, it's coffee.
Well, dude, so I live in Massachusetts. I live in Massachusetts, and I Dunkin' Donuts is a religion here. It's pretty terrifying. Yeah. And today I was listening to the audiobook of Head Cleaner. I was out in the rain waiting for my windshield to get repaired, and I got desperate. I went to Dunkin' Donuts for the first time ever and got a coffee. And I sent a photo to my wife. It's like, the transformation's complete, and she was gassed. And it didn't taste good, but I had this feeling, like, I understand these people now. I'm like, I get it. I'm one of them. I'm walking the streets, I have my hoodie on. And I was like, I need some sweatpants. I was like this close to just getting it. I've been here more than
so it wasn't years. Good. I hear a lot about that coffee. What does it taste like?
No, it tastes terrible. Like, I don't get. I just don't.
It's like diner coffee.
Yeah, it's like diner. It's funny. It's like diner coffee that had heard about Starbucks, had tried it, and so they tried to make an approximation, and it didn't come off well. Yeah,
I feel like Dunkin' goes heavy on cream and sugar in a way that just takes all of the coffee flavor out of everything. So that's my impression.
I could see that. Yeah,
like you're worried your hand is going to be sticky from holding the cup.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. It was a real eye opener.
If the next time Rob comes out here and Tony's coming out here, we're going to make that happen.
I'm down.
There's a coffee shop down the street called the Ugly Mug, and they have a drink called the Donnie Darko, which is 3 espresso shots and this heavy cream, which sounds fatal,
right?
But it tastes so good. And I'm not a big coffee freak or anything, but I know that that's good. Like,
that sounds good.
I got one and I didn't even mix it up. Amy said later, I think you're supposed to mix it up, but I don't know. Are you supposed to mix those things up? Because it's black on the bottom and it's just white on the top. So when you drink it, the black goes through the white. And so by the time you're at the end of it, then it tastes like, I guess, like it's supposed to. But there's something about the black going through the white it was so much better when it wasn't mixed. And I don't know what the hell is going on with that, but it is good. And it's a nuclear reactor. When you drink that shit, you're just like, I can conquer the world.
Maybe
all family business will be settled today.
I have to tell you about this coffee concoction. So there's a coffee shop that opened up recently in Chicago called The Brood, and it's a horror themed coffee shop.
Okay.
And so like their first signature drink that they made when they first opened up was called Firestarter, and it was like a coffee thing, but it had like cayenne pepper in it or something like that. So like they really lean into, like, you should check out their social media. It's fucking great. Like they have a TV by the booths that's just like an old CRT, like cabinet style TV, that just flickers the pumpkin, like in Halloween 3.
Oh my God. A lot of kitsch factor going on at this place.
So kitsch. But I just fucking, they blew my mind one day because I'm at the counter and I'm ordering, whatever I was ordering. And I see a sign for a drink that's cold brew coffee and lemonade. And it's called a Leland Palmer. And I was like, fuck me. That is like the coolest thing.
That's like Readers of the Lost Ark. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's like Readers of the Lost.
Well, here's my question. Do they have a beverage called Cream Blackula Cream?
No, but
they don't have that. I don't know what they're doing.
They need a suggestion box, I think, is what they need. But
I'm thinking Gizmo Cocoa for the kids. There's all kinds of oh God.
Yeah. It's a cool place. It's horror themed. So
it's fun.
Nice. We probably should start wrapping up our chat.
Yeah.
Since it's
so what are you
close
gonna
to midnight.
You got a lot of material. Are you gonna do like here's the extended version like you used to do with Booked?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna there's really not much to edit like in this conversation. So it's probably gonna go up almost like this on YouTube. It'll probably get podcasted out the same way.
Get all the crashes out. You probably drop 10, 12 minutes easy.
You got to do the thumbnail as like a silver Dave and then like a black and white Dave.
Oh yeah. That's what I'll do. I'll keep going in and like putting up different versions of it and see if anybody notices. Oh.
I don't know if Rob had this. Like if Tony ends up doing this show, Tony's gonna have to make some arcs. This is his new series, Creatures.
Nice.
This one's based on a certain. Tony likes to play fast and loose with intellectual properties.
Right.
So this might ring some bells. It's got a lot of shine on there, though.
Yeah, I'm continuing my my John Carpenter love letter, which has become my adult life, pretty much.
Yeah. So what do you have to promote right now, Tony? I could go as far back as Nefarious Twit, but I don't know how commercially available that is right now.
Yeah, that's actually the one thing that's not available anymore. But yeah, I've done a bunch of stuff. But basically, I've really kind of pivoted to making comic books. I write and draw a lot of comic books. So Dave's been a big supporter, which is awesome. Dave reads most of my stuff, and I appreciate that. But the new comic book series I'm doing is called Serious Creatures. It's actually the second volume of it. So I did 6 issues a year or 2 years ago and collected those into one big collection, and now this is the next 6 issues, which will complete the whole story. And that's basically about a teenage special effects artist who's working in Hollywood in the 70s and 80s. It's loosely based on the career of Rob Bottin, who did the effects for The Thing and RoboCop and The Howling. So nice. Basically it's a kind of like Boogie Nights, but it's about the Fangoria set. So that's my current thing. I've done 2 issues so far. The new run, the third one will be out next month, and that'll get me through to like the summertime, and then I'll collect those 6 issues, and that will be this giant friggin' saga, like the Goodfellas of ghoulish movies and stuff like that. So that's the current beast.
That sounds awesome.
It's so good. Rob, I'll send it to you next time I send you something. I've got I had some doubles for my sister, but she moved, so I'll hook you up. But it's so good. Awesome. Earlier about that he's abandoned spaceships, et cetera. But I mean,
the praise. He cuts out on the praise. Like
he's doing it on purpose. He's doing it on purpose.
He did it with the pitch for what you could write. He's doing it with the praise.
It's pretty smart. Yeah.
What I was saying was that because you're writing about the special effects industry, it's a perfect loophole to have that you don't abandon those things that you said you were sick of. Like they're certainly in there because you can have these digressions, these fantasies, but also you still have that kinetic, crazy artwork of the special effects that are, woven all through it. So even though he hinted earlier that his story is more grounded and normal, it's certainly taken advantage of the same imagination that robots and his little Lumen guy. But I like this one the best. I liked that other stuff, but there's something about the subject matter, and there's something about the protagonist who's clearly another Tony avatar From what little I know about him. But
for better or for worse. Yeah, thanks, Dave.
Does that mean that like your life parallels Botein's, or are you putting more of you than him in it?
I think it's maybe more me than him, but I think similar. we're inverted, where he was very successful early on in his life, and I'm hoping that I'll be successful eventually near the end of my life at some point. We'll see. But
maybe that by doing this, you're sort of Dorian Gray in his ass, that he's sort of going, he's shriveling up while you take his power.
I'm fine with that. I mean, as long as I get out in the end, that's okay. Sorry, Rob Bottin.
Beautiful. That's awesome. Well,
thanks,
maybe we'll have an episode where it's all the Tony's work up here, not David's books.
I'm totally I'll send you a bunch of stuff. I got boxes of stuff, man. But that sounds great.
Awesome. 2.5 hours, I think, is a pretty decent conversation. Okay, so since this is about books that are coming out soon, let's just end it on, like, is there a book that is coming out in the near future or sometime in this year that you're really looking forward to? Or an author in general, anything like that? Because I've been hit with like this conundrum of having done the booked podcast for so long. I've built up like a larger and larger list of authors who, like, anything they put out, I'm going to read, to the point where like it's several books a month that I'm like, oh man, I got to get that one. I got to get that one. So I wonder if that's like that's something that everybody goes through.
Not trying to kiss ass, but I did pre-order Head Cleaner, so I was very excited about this book coming out. So when it finally comes, I will probably be done with the audiobook, but I'll probably read it again. Totally. It's a different experience, I think.
That's awesome. I'm so behind on books that I'm looking forward. I've started Swamplandia, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that ends up. I know that's I'm 5 years late on that one. I told you 5 years is the sweet spot for me for being So I don't know. Did you guys read that? The Alligator Farm?
Who's that author again?
Russell? Yeah. Karen Russell?
No, I didn't. I knew it made a big splash when it came out.
It's great. I mean, she has a story that I think you guys would love, and it's kind of in Stephen Graham Jones territory. It's called Home for Girls Raised by Wolves. Home the Jesuit Home for Girls Raised by Wolves. Did I freeze?
No, you're good.
No. But yeah, it's an amazing short story where they find these wild sort of werewolf girls and make them normal in this school and teach them etiquette. It's one of those perfect short stories that you can tell like there was a book worth of stuff put into a short story. So I've always wanted to read Swamplandia, which seems to have some of the similar tone to it, like point of view of young girls in like a wild situation. It's about this family growing up on an alligator farm, and it's great so far, but I'm only like 5 pages in, so it's going to take me a while to do it. So I'm looking forward to reading Swamplandia, which was nominated for a Pulitzer, didn't win. I think they might even have done that shit thing where there's no winner that year.
Oh yeah,
which is just a real slap in the face. Like, they decided that none of the nominees were good enough. For like, how do you even do that? Can you imagine an award doing that? We're sorry, but none of you are good enough.
Yeah, that sucks.
So it should have gotten a Pulitzer of the year. But then some friends of mine who really like that story, they're like, you're going to be disappointed in Swamplandia. It was too much hype. I don't see that so far. First chapter, and it was great. So maybe it turns to shit. I don't know. Looking forward to finding out.
Nice. Anything come to mind, Tony?
Oh, besides Head Cleaner,
you went with code.
Yeah. We forced him to read that early. We already
no, there's a bunch of comic books and stuff like that. Like, I still have the Mountain Goats guys book from, I think it might be a year old now, but I think the
Devil House, the Devil House. Yeah, I got that too.
Yeah, and so I'm like, I think I got that last Christmas. I gotta read it. Like, I really like his other stuff. So like,
that's like I'm playing catch up with shit. I've got Heat too. I got
right, yeah,
like a long time before it was released.
I'll see that one in 5 years.
Yeah, you'll see that.
Stephen Graham Jones doesn't he have a book coming out with a crowbar on the cover? I'm intrigued by that.
Don't Fear the Reaper. It's the follow-up to My Heart is a Chainsaw.
I gotta go back and read a book.
Yeah, My Heart is a Chainsaw. Yeah, that comes out in February. Yeah. Jones is killing it. That guy's.
I'm a big crowbar fan. I'm a big Stephen Graham Jones fan, but I also like crowbars. So it's like
it's not a crowbar though. It's a
oh, fuck that. Fuck that.
What does a Reaper carry? Like what's
sickle?
the fucking
a crowbar?
Yeah.
Scythe. Yeah.
A crowbar. Medieval times you had a fucking crowbar in case your buggy needed like some.
The door to take you to. That's a crowbar.
That's pretty cool. Is it to open a door? To Jimmy a door because he's like deaf? That's kind of fun. If that's the case.
He's always carried a crowbar.
It's a
You're
Mandela
just seeing
effect.
it on a weird angle.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a tire iron. Is that what they call it? He carries a tire iron.
Hey, thanks for joining and kicking off this experiment of a situation. I'm hoping that it builds momentum and it gets more people reading excellent books. So thanks for starting it off with me.
I had a blast. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks for picking my book. That's fun.
Man, I missed me some Keaton. I went back and
fun. This was like the old days.
This is the salad days.
The salad days. The all or nothing days.
Yeah.